Keep it going for yourselves, everybody, for making it out here tonight. Look at us. We're at a TED Talk. Can you believe it? I got to tell you, when I found out about this opportunity, I was so incredibly excited. I called up my mom right away. I told her, Mom, you're never going to believe this. I'm doing a TED Talk. And she said, honey, that is so amazing. I'm so proud of you. What's a TED Talk? But congratulations, every single one of you in this room here today are not dead yet. Yeah, you can applaud that. For now, you know. But my name is Tim Finkel. I am a comedian. Today I want to talk to you about something that is often not regarded as funny. I want to talk to you about grief. So do this for me. Applaud if you have ever lost a loved one. It's okay. Yeah. Kind of a weird thing to applaud, isn't it? You know? But it shouldn't be. None of us are immune, right? You've either lost a loved one, you're currently losing a loved one, or you're going to lose a loved one. Regardless, grief's coming, people. You know? But today I would like to invite you to think of grief as something good. I would like to ask the question, is grief a bad thing? I don't think it is. We often think of it as something that we try to avoid or just get through. We think of it in terms of being linear, having a start and a finish. But I would argue that grief is a gift, something to be cherished, something to be embraced. Now, before I get too far into this, allow me to explain my scholarly credentials in this area of study. I have absolutely none. Yeah, I have seen The Lion King 18 times. I'm a parent, you know. But I do have my story, okay? March 3rd, 2009. It was my 30th birthday. It was a great day. It was. I wasn't reveling in the glory days of my 20s. I was genuinely optimistic about my future. And then I got a phone call that day. My oldest brother had died. Now, he wasn't sick. It was completely unexpected. In fact, this photo here was taken just 9 days earlier. Now, he was a competitive older brother, as most older brothers are, but don't worry, he didn't do it on purpose. He wasn't trying to steal my limelight or anything like that. But nothing will ever prepare you for the death of your brother. You know, you think about what it'll be like when a dog dies or a grandparent, but you don't think about what it'll be like when a sibling dies. Not on your birthday, certainly not in your 20s. Having a brother die on your birthday, it's a lot like getting your car washed and then pulling out onto the street on a beautiful day and the clouds roll in and the rain starts falling and then your brother dies. Yeah. Do you have any idea how awkward it is every year on the anniversary of my brother's death? They have to say, hey, everybody, who wants another slice of cake? It was tragic, you know. I was left with the overwhelming feeling that my own life was now trivial. I didn't know how to go on. So I started to try and shift my mindset because I realized at this point that this was either going to affect me very negatively or very positively, but regardless, I was not going to be the same. So I tried to find gifts in my grief. I became obsessed with this. How often do you hear the words, I'm sorry for your loss? What does that even mean, right? It's no different than saying God bless you after a sneeze. What are you sorry for? It wasn't your fault. I've never been a big fan of this term because I can honestly say I'm not sorry for the loss of my brother. It's not because I didn't love my brother. He was a great man. He was the father of 3 boys, 5, 7, and 9 at the time. The kind of guy that when he went in a room, he lit up the entire room, whose positivity was contagious. If you were lucky enough to meet my brother, you remembered him. The day he died was the worst day of my life. Now, I have an incredibly thoughtful, amazing wife, and she never knew how to approach that day from that day forward until one year. She said, make sure you keep the day open. I got a surprise for you. I thought we were going to go to the zoo or a pumpkin patch or someplace that I have zero interest in. That morning, she said, I signed you up for a stand-up comedy class. It's 6 weeks long, ends in a final performance. This was my start. To this day, it's the greatest gift that anyone has ever given me. I now spend my weekends telling jokes about my wife to complete strangers, and she's regretted it every day since. But the first thing you learn in comedy are the basics, the fundamentals, you know, dick and fart jokes. Yeah, my 6- and 8-year-old boys are empirical evidence that these are the cornerstones of all great comedy. But all I ever wanted to do was get good enough at comedy that I could talk about my brother's death on stage in a way that was hopeful and funny. You know, Mark Twain once said that humor is nothing more than tragedy plus time. And I learned that if you can learn to laugh, you can learn to heal. See, comedy teaches you to take a commonly held belief, flip it upside down, and then argue that counterpoint with humor. Most of us think grief is bad, something to be avoided. I didn't feel that way. My grief was my catalyst for positive change. So I started talking about my brother's death on stage. It was cathartic. I was achieving my goal. I had moved beyond fart jokes. And you know what I found out throughout this process? I learned that when you talk about death on stage at a comedy show, most late-night audiences prefer fart jokes. Yeah. Distilled down, comedy is nothing more than making a human connection. You know, and we all fart, but we also all experience death. And then one night I came off stage. I had a gentleman come up to me afterwards, and he had tears in his eyes, and he told me, I had to find you and come thank you. I just had my older brother die 2 weeks ago. I didn't want to come here tonight. This is my first time out of the house. The first guy was terrible, but you gave me hope. This was the human connection I was looking for. With time, I found that my grief began to fade. And if I'm honest, I missed it. I did. And the gifts of my grief began to fade. I found myself becoming less present, having less gratitude. And then I became a dad. And one day I turned around and my own children were the same age as my nephews when they lost their father. And all of my grief came back with a wave because I realized the gravity of what my brother left behind. But with that came all the gifts, because I didn't take my life for granted at that point. I'm often drawn to this quote: grief is like the ocean. Sometimes the water is calm, sometimes it's overwhelming. All we can do is learn to swim. Now, I can see what you guys are thinking right now by your looks you're giving me. Are you sure this guy's a comedian? And I do sincerely apologize for turning this into a TED Talk. But again, congratulations. Every single one of you who applauded here at the beginning of the speech are still alive, right? And if you take anything from this, don't say you're sorry for your loss. I'm not. Find the gifts in your grief. Seek out the value of it. You may not be there yet, but make it a goal. In doing so, it is the greatest way to honor those you are grieving. So this year, when my birthday rolls around, I'm not going to feel guilty about having cake. And I'm going to have myself a beer in my brother's honor. If I'm being honest, I'm going to have 9. Thank you guys very much. My name's Tim.